Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the National Guard products number 220S DKB. This is an automatic door bottom is what it is. The 220 is representative of the series of automatic door bottom from National Guard and is represented by this general profile, this sloped top profile, which, by the way, makes it a handed unit. We'll talk more about that in a moment. The S in the part number is for silicone. That means that this inserted material is silicone, which is a very good high-performance type of insert that you're going to see in a variety of weather stripping products. Good long-lasting, with typical use, good extreme temperature performance, and is a name synonymous with good quality weather stripping inserts. This is also available, speaking of the inserts, as a N for neoprene. You can also order it with a piece of neoprene insert. Neoprene is a bit more rigid than silicone. Silicone is a bit more pliable. I would probably consider using neoprene. My experience tells me that neoprene is a bit more resistance to daily wear and tear. I would opt to use neoprene when I had a set of doors that I didn't expect to operate very often, that were obviously on an exterior wall, and I wanted to have a seal material that was going to perform just simply with a greater lifespan than silicone when it wasn't being used. It's less flexible. I like silicone because it is, in my opinion, more appropriate for daily use because of its flexibility. Okay? I don't really need it to be flexible if I'm hardly going to use the doors. I just need the R value, the seal, to be intact all the time. So I might opt for neoprene. It's also available in a nylon brush. Now, nylon brush is great in lots of instances, primarily where you have an irregular floor surface. Carpeting or a pitted sill that is, not, of course, so exaggerated, but bristle has a tendency to really cover all of the imperfections in a sill. If I had a piece of bristle here and laid it across my fingers, it would literally contour over my fingers, whereas, of course, neoprene and silicone cannot. You would lose some seal functionality in that environment. Nylon brush is going to be what you'll use in an irregular sill condition. That's where you're going to go with nylon brush. If your sill condition is irregular to the point where you've got more than a 1/16 of an inch, go with nylon brush. You'll want that there. There is, finishing off the dissection of the part number, DKB. That stands for dark bronze. If you put A in lieu of the DKB, you'll have a clear anodized aluminum finish on the piece of aluminum. If you replace the DKB with a B, you're going to have a gold anodized aluminum. So now you've got the full part number. The 220 has, as I said earlier, this sort of tapered profile to the top of the shape. That makes it handed. There's a link below this video to a document called, likely, product brochure. It is. The product brochure shows you this item against its immediate sister products, where they feature rectangular topped or square topped units. Those square topped units, in effect, become non-handed because you can literally take it and flip it over. But a 220, as you can see, because of this feature, it does not require any sort of finish to the back. The aluminum housing is just an asymmetrical piece with the workings attached to the back side of it. You have to tell us what hand the door is in this case. These can be reversed in the field. There is a link below this video as well to the installation instructions that will talk about rehanding it. I'm not going to cover that in this video because I don't want to. The fact of the matter is, and if you need help rehanding, don't hesitate to call us. But I don't like to take these apart. Meaning, not that I don't like to take these apart. I don't like to redo the work. I order the hand correctly initially, and I implore you to do so. Just order the hand correctly, if at all possible. And what will aid you in doing that is a couple of things. First of all, when you add the item to the cart, it will not allow you to add it to the cart unless you selected the hand. That's number one. Number two, there's a link below this video as well to the door handing chart. That will give you a graphic representation of the different way that the 4 different ways a door will swing. To me, it's simple, clear, and straightforward. I've also been staring at this chart for decades. By all means, feel free to reach out to us if you simply want to confirm the handing. If you're in a situation where you cannot determine the hand, well, then you'll have to rehand the unit, and the installation instructions are provided there. But by all means, if you can order it, the proper hand from the factory, do so. I'm going to mention in this video a couple of times that I think automatic door bottoms are elegant solutions. And let's get down to the business end of that. First of all, these are available in all of the common lengths. And as a matter of fact, the 220 can be built in lengths from as small as 11 inch all the way out to 60 inch. That's going to cover you as far as I'm concerned. Those small sizes, a pair of 18-inch units, well, you've got a pair of 18-inch doors that open up, a pair of French doors on a master bedroom out to a patio. Automatic door bottoms are perfect in that sort of scenario. That's an exterior wall on a bedroom. You're going to want that sealed. So they can make real small ones out to 5-foot wide units as well. Elegant. Well, here's the first reason why. The actual principle, the base principle of this, is one that allows the door bottom to be effective and very long lasting. And by comparison to other door bottoms or door sweeps, it's smart. It's a piece of smart technology, even though I believe it was invented around World War II. Don't quote me, but that's what my belief is. Now, take note that on this end, there's this bolt sticking out. Okay? Take note that the silicone is long. That's normal. After your installation, you'll get in there and you'll trim it to fit. Take note on the other end, again, the silicone is long. Just ignore. But there's no bolt. That's just a hollow channel. The bolt is always the hinge side of the door. You always place this on the hinge side of the door. What happens, the actual principle of an automatic door bottom is such that when the unit is attached to the door with this towards the hinge side and the door is closed, because this is surface mounted, if you can imagine that in your head, this bolt will make contact with the stop. Well, and that's, say, 5 degrees from being closed. If you push it all the way, this will have nowhere to go but in. And as that bolt is pushed in, the bottom is going to drop. Now, you'll notice that it drops down unevenly, kind of like, almost like a guillotine will, even though not exactly, but it will drop this way, and then for purposes of this analogy, it will come this way. So how these work, and I'll put it with the backside towards you. When this is depressed, it drops down over here unevenly. Now, imagine that my thumb is going to emulate the sill. So as that's depressed, the bottom over here that drops first will come in contact with the sill. My thumb will restrict it because it's the sill, and then it will force an evening out to occur. So from over here, my thumb is going to restrict it. What happens, sorry, it's a bit hard to do this, pushing that in at the same time. As I restrict it here, you can see that the rest of it will even out on the other side. So, a very poor demonstration. One side drops, the sill stops it, the rest of it knifes down this way. Elegant. Why? Well, because it can account for a sill that's not level. And that's great. That's, you know, door sweeps aren't real good at that unless you're literally installing them not level to match the sill. And then they don't look even on the bottom of the door, which could be a problem if you have, let's say, a kick plate, and you've got only an inch of margin between the bottom of the kick plate and the door sweep, and there's, you know, it goes from quarter to you know, 3/8 of an inch. Not that you might notice it, but you might. I would. So they're elegant in that regard because they can compensate for that. They're elegant as well because they can handle, this model can handle up to a 1-inch maximum drop. So if you have a margin, you might have a very tight margin on your door, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, automatic door bottom's a great option for that because it will seal automatically. If you have a margin from 3/8 over here, again, to 1/2 inch or 9/16 over here, this is perfect. When you get those larger sorts of undercuts, it's very likely that in front of your door, as the door swings open, whether it's commercial or residential, you're going to have a rug in front of the door. A standard door sweep or door bottom cannot negotiate a rug. It's going to drag over that rug, not an automatic door bottom, because when that door is opened, as soon as you open the door, this being spring-loaded will be released. That's going to force this, the drop bar, to tuck back up in the housing, clearing over a rug that's on the inside of the door, or a shoe that's been left there. You might be familiar with the plastic finned door bottoms that are applied to residential doors that are typically stapled in. You leave a shoe in front of one of those, you've got about 5 more times before you're going to destroy the door bottom with that shoe. And if you've got kids like mine, that shoe's going to be behind the door, I guarantee it. Automatic door bottoms are really elegant because they help you not destroy the bottom of the door. Another reason they're elegant, imagine if you have a Brazilian cherry wood floor, any wood floor. You have it could be a commercial setting where you have a polished sort of concrete, epoxied over terrazzo situation. A door sweep will, over time, create a wear mark in that swept area of the door, not an automatic door bottom, okay? Because it's, again, tucked back up. Now, let's go through the extended description just briefly. Automatic door bottom with silicone. This happens to be a 3-foot length. We're going to talk about lengths in a moment. Aluminum shell with a dark bronze anodizing. The silicone is gray. It will be gray on any of these colors. Clear, gold, dark bronze. It's just the color that they have the silicone in. Fire rated. UL10B and UL10C for up to 3-hour installations. Why is that important? Along with the smoke and draft control, because hotels. You're going to see these all the time in hotels, all the time. And those doors are always smoke and draft control rated. They're always fire rated as well. Acoustically tested, air infiltration tested, certified by the national governing body of hardware. Used with a threshold for maximum sealing capability, and that's part and parcel with the sort of elegant operation that an automatic door bottom allows you to enjoy the benefits of. Talks about nylon brush for irregular surfaces. End caps are available, and there is a link below this video to where you can order the end cap for this. What is an end cap? When you attach this to the face of the door, you're always going to see this exposed face. You can order an end cap that will allow you to attach to the end of this a very thin piece of finish material, okay, so that you can dress that off. The downside of that is your silicone is not going to go quite tight to the frame because you can leave this run a little bit long to snug up against the jamb, okay? So you would be sacrificing that. However, you're not going to be seeing all the exposed works on the, when you open the door to 90 degree, you'll see the hinge side, you'll see the bolt and the inner works, and then on the lock side, as you approach the door, you'll see that as well. Hotels are pretty much always going to have end caps because those are interior doors. They're looking for a smoke seal rated item. They're looking to assist in the acoustical attenuation of the opening, and they're less concerned about the loss of thermal value. It's an interior door. It needs to look nice as well. Another reference here, lead insert is available for radiation shield. Should you have a lead line door in a clinic, in a hospital, as you attach it to the face of the door with the screws, you will certainly pierce through the lead that's in the door. This can be made to accommodate the fact that you're going to pierce through some of the lead and give you complete coverage, lead coverage. Now, we talked about the link below this video to the product brochure that shows you different variations and options on this item. The sloped top 220, I think, is nicer looking. It's more appropriate, it's more decorative for a hotel, for a residence. The square top stuff is certainly very typical and common, maybe something more appropriate for a commercial application where the ultimate aesthetic doesn't need to be a paramount concern in the design process. There is, on that same page, a much smaller unit called a slimline, and then there are those models that are covered not in aluminum, but brass, onto which you can have it mill brass, satin brass, polished brass, and even oil rub bronze. And then there's a stainless steel version as well. That's very important to have available because there are stainless steel doors. Here in Chicago, the Chicago Transit Authority has lots of stainless steel doors installed. The Illinois Tollway Authority has lots of stainless steel doors installed. And putting an automatic door bottom onto that door needs to be a similar base material, stainless steel. And not only for the look to match, but the corrosion resistance needs to match the greater assembly. So moving on to the link below this video to the installation instructions. We're going to go over it relatively briefly, and I'm just going to interject what to look out for, what to do. If nylon brush gasket, step one, if you've ordered a nylon brush version, slide the brush clear if you're going to cut the case and the drop bar. If you're going to trim this in the field, you're going to want to pull the nylon brush back and away because the holder of that nylon brush is actually steel. So the bristle is long. Well, they fold it over with that steel crimp or that steel retainer, and it's all pressed in there. So you don't want to run that over your circular saw, that kind of thing. Now, let's get to the size. For single doors, cut the door bottom 1/8 of an inch shorter than between the stops on the frame. And for pairs of doors, cut it 1/16 of an inch shorter than the distance between the stop on the frame and the meeting edge of the door. Okay, so they're saying trim it to match your actual conditions. We had already discussed ordering it the right hand so you don't have to futz with that. This is the part where I say to order it the right length as well. So here's an example. They're saying cut it 1/8 of an inch shorter than the distance between the stops. Let's just think about a single door. This is a surface mounted model. It has to be installed on the push side. If you envision trying to attach this to the pull side of the door, when the door is closed, this bolt makes no contact with anything. I mean, not unless you were to apply a block to the face of the jamb. These are installed only on the push side. If you have a 3-foot door, let's use the example of a residential application, a wood door. That sort of application is going to be this. Generally speaking, the net door width is 36 inch. When you put a tape measure on the door, it's 36 inch. In the hollow metal industry and others, that's not the case. There's an actual size and then a nominal size. Kind of with the wood door business, your actual size and your nominal size are kind of the same. So, whereas in a hollow metal door, that's not the case. A 3-foot wide hollow metal door means the inside of the frame is 36 inch and the door is about 35 3/4 generally. Wood door, that door is 36 inch itself and the frame is larger to accommodate. Okay. Now, that actually doesn't matter at all, the net width of the door. What does matter is when the door is closed and you measure the distance from the push side of the door between the stops, you're going to have a certain dimension. You're going to want to order this 1/8 of an inch smaller. Back to our example. Let's say you have a 36 inch wide door and you've got 1/8 of an inch margin on either side and your inside frame dimension is 36 1/4. Let's just say that your stops are 1/2 inch projection. 36 1/4 less 1/2 inch. 36 1/4, 35 3/4 less 1/2 inch. 35 1/4 means the net size of this would need to be 35 1/8. I say determine beforehand the net length you need to have this made at and the hand and let the factory do it. Because what's going to happen is you will never cut the hinge side, you'll only cut the lock side, and you're going to have to cut and trim all of this. Not a big deal, but if you can avoid doing the work, great. The factory is making this out of extrusions that are 14 feet plus long. They don't care if it's 36 or if it's 35 1/8. They don't care. It's just a number that they're going to cut it back to. You could be in a position whereby you cannot go to the job site 200 miles away and measure all 50 of them. You're going to build into the job the fact that you're going to trim all these. That's understood. There you go. But I would suggest that if you had a significant quantity of these to do and you didn't want to run the risk of damaging the material in cutting it, because you may have noticed this drop bar assembly is relatively loose. It's very loose. I could actually, if I wanted, pull that out and break it. The action of cutting this, in my mind, would emulate a potential for damage. I would argue that you could, if possible, get the net length and order it that size. Now, in a double door, you're going to split that distance. You're going to take for pairs of doors, cut it 1/16 of an inch shorter from the distance between the stop on the one side to the meeting edge of the door. Okay, you're going to split that. Do not cut until the drop bar is extended in down position. Insert 2 nails provided into small holes on the side of the drop bar to keep the bar extended while cutting. Now, what you're going to notice is that there is a hole here and a hole here. And what I've not shown you yet is the screw package. The screw package will have those large dark bronze screws that are going to go through the housing here and here and then here to secure it to the face of the door. It's also going to have the 2 little nails that are there. You can barely see them, but they're there. You will quite carefully pull that out stick the nail through there so that it is held out. Then, over here as well, you do the same thing. Take that, tug it out, slip the nail through, as you can see right at the tip of my thumb, and that will hold it out. The reason they want the drop bar extended when you carefully cut it is because the drop bar doesn't drop straight down. It actually has an action slightly of doing this. You cut it when it's straight, you're going to have a 1/16 of an inch or so not covered on one side when it drops, and then too much on the other side. So keep that in mind, please. Maximum cut. If the doors are 36 inch, or if the units are 3 foot and longer, your maximum cut is going to be 4 inch. You see in here, this is the lock side. You've got this pin. There's nothing down in here between the edge and here. So you've got that amount of room to play with to cut the unit down. What National Guard is saying is that the units that are 3 foot, that are smaller than 3 foot, will not necessarily have any play over here at all. You must order them the net size. You will be able to trim them probably a little bit, but you will need to give us the net size, or you might find a situation by which you cannot trim them down at all in the field. So please calculate that when you're considering, the order process. Step 3, if the nylon brush gasket, cut with snips. If you've got nylon bristle model, you're going to want to pull that out and literally cut it with the appropriate cutting tool, like aviation snips would be quite typical for that as well. Do not trim the excess gasket from the adjusting rod end, as the bar is designed to shift slightly towards the lock edge of the door when activated. You're going to make a final trim of the silicone. When you've got the door in the closed position, you'll do a visual review of that and determine the amount of proper trim. They're saying you don't trim it at all. That might be a bit too much to have stuck in there. It may not be such a problem, but you'll decide that when you're installing it. With the door in the closed position on the push side, align the bottom of the case flush with the bottom of the door, and then your 1/16 of an inch clearance at either end. Well, that makes installation quite simple and straightforward. Okay, flush the bottom of the case to the bottom of the door. That's easy. Installing this with the door hung is not a problem. I don't unhang the door to actually attach it. per the instructions, you'll drill a 16th, pardon me, a 9/64 of an inch hole for the 220 model. With the screws provided, attach it. You're going to flush it to the bottom, leave a 16th on either part. You're going to leave a 16th, you're going to center it properly in the door. It would be a 16th on either side. Now, before you test the door, take the drop bar and turn it clockwise. As you turn it clockwise, you're going to draw it back in the housing. You'll see, hopefully you'll notice that it sticks out less than it did. Then, with it not projecting out very far, test your operation. Close the door, inspect how the bottom behaves. Make adjustments to the drop bar. Adjust it until it seals, but only touches. The reason I say that is there is, behind here, you may have spied, that spring. Kind of looks like a coat hanger, I suppose. Flattened out coat hanger. But that spring is under tension, so the drop bar pushes in. It basically bellies that spring that's in there. Tension pushing it down because the bellying action forces the bottom to drop. When the pressure is released from the drop bar, pressure is released from the spring. Bar pops back up, the drop bar comes back up into the housing. If you have an undue amount of pressure via an overly extended drop nut or bolt, in effect, you'll have the door open, but the seal is still touching the floor, and that you would have to open it significantly for it to start to rise. That drop bar, as we had demonstrated early, is fairly loose in here. You do not want that dragging across the floor. It'll destroy the door bottom. So the projection of the bolt is directly related to a seal on the floor, but just a seal, not a lot of pressure. So be careful of that. Step 8, set adjusting rod for proper seal. To reduce the drop, turn the adjusting rod right, clockwise, it'll draw it in. To increase, counterclockwise, draw it out. You'll figure it out immediately. On wooden frames, install the strike plate. There's going to be a screw inside of here, right there, because over time, the bolt will make a divot, create a divot in the wood frame, and you don't want that. So that strike will go exactly opposite of where the bolt will make contact, and you're in good shape. Automatic door bottoms are really, as I have hopefully convinced you, an elegant solution to installations for the reasons mentioned. Long lasting because they're not scraping. Elegant because they allow you to have a shoe or a rug in front. Unlevel sill that's not level. If I've sold 10,000 of these, which I have, one time a client will say, you know, that makes a lot of noise. You can really hear that. And it's true. You do hear a sound as it seats back up into the housing. You do. There's no question. National Guard has models that incorporate, as a result of designing them to be more weather tight, neoprene or rubber seals so that when the housing comes back up, it doesn't clank. It's hitting rubber, so the sound is significantly muted. If you want help in that regard to determine the best item possible, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to select a better model for you with you. Now, in conclusion, the name National Guard Products is synonymous with all things weather stripping related. Of course, not only a specialty product like an automatic door bottom, but thresholds, door sweeps, perimeter gasketing, material made of aluminum like this, brass, stainless steel like we had mentioned before. There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up the full line National Guard products catalog and review all things National Guard weather stripping related. And if you have more than an occasional need for weather stripping, by all means familiarize yourself with their catalog, as it will only be a matter of time before you bump into a need for something National Guard. The final thing, as you can see from the drawing below this video, the overall height of this is 2 1/4 with a thickness of about 5/8. They're calling it 1930 seconds. Makes perfect sense to me. My name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders. Any questions on the 220S DKB automatic door bottom or any other National Guard product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.